Hello, everybody, and hello, Itheum community. Great to have you here. Welcome to another Tech Town Hall. My name is Mark, and super excited to be here. I think it's been probably a couple of months since we did a Tech Town Hall. We've been working really hard behind the scenes with the tech, and I'm really excited at this opportunity to talk to you one on one, show you some really cool tech, and also talk about our roadmap. Changes to our roadmap as well as new products that we started working on. So great to have you here. Super excited that you could spend this time with us. And I'm going to jump straight into it. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and we'll jump straight into it. Let me just double check that this is good. Yep, I think that's fine. So, like I was saying, plenty to talk about today. We're going to start with discussing some key roadmap updates. We're going to then introduce you to some new concepts within Itheum, namely a product called the Data Marshal, and also sort of a mid to long term vision of Itheum in terms of where we're heading. We call that Itheum V2. We're going to talk about some new products that we are working on and making good progress on, soulbound badges and reputation. And finally, we're going to attempt a really cool demo of how our data NFT technology, which is very, very close to going to mainnet, how it could be used in the AI industry. So we'll attempt a demo, and let's see how we go. So let's begin with the key roadmap updates. So, as you guys know, the Itheum roadmap is available fully public. So, we've been fully public with it. So, we build based on this public roadmap. So, anybody can visit itheum.io/roadmap, and you come up to this roadmap here. In fact, this is the roadmap the team works towards as well. So, if you follow it, you'll get an idea of where we are at in our progress. So it's historic. So it actually goes back to when we actually launched our token. So we can skip all of that. Where we are now is basically Q1 2023. And we're going to talk about this and answer some of the questions as to a few changes we have made to the roadmap. We have moved things around a little bit, and we want to explain why we did that. But firstly, before I dive into the changes, anybody can visit our roadmap and you can actually see our historic changes. So Itheum will not just ad hoc make changes to the roadmap. We want to be transparent. Ultimately, these changes will come from the DAO, which you can participate in as well. But as an example, you can click on these and see what did the roadmap look like just before we make a change. So there's a historic versioning here of our roadmap. So let's jump into our roadmap changes, and then we'll walk through some of these new products and justifications as to why we have shuffled the roadmap a bit. So the first thing I will address, and it's a question we're getting a lot from our communities, is we were supposed to do an NFT drop this quarter, as well as continuation to the next quarter. So it was called the NFMe Genesis drop. We announced this in X Day in Paris on stage, and we had a whitelist competition open up as well. Now, what you would notice here is that we have actually moved this to Q3, and I'd like to explain why we have done this. So the NFMe Genesis is more than just a regular NFT collection. It actually had really strong utility behind it. If you remember what we spoke about in Paris, we spoke about how NFMe Genesis forms almost the sort of the ancestral traits of NFMe ID, which is our identity product that's coming up. Also, NFMe Genesis had played a very key part in the identity DAO. In other words, providing the governance for NFMe ID's complex identity system. So what we figured out was if we had launched it in this quarter before some of the other more important functional items like our identity subsystem or reputation system or even data NFTs, which is going to go live very soon, the NFMe Genesis almost just becomes like this NFT collection that may look good, but really wasn't have much utility. And we really don't want to launch anything that comes up and just remains without utility. So the reason we moved it is to align it better to when owners of NFB Genesis could actually participate in our ecosystem, provide the governance from day one, provide customization of avatars and identity, and all of these things. So that's the reason we have moved it to a bit further down in our roadmap to align better to our other product launches. Now, that being said, we did do a whitelist during X Day. All of that would be honored, right? So we just have to wait maybe 1 or 2 quarters more. But once we are ready to launch, if you were part of that, if you're one of those winners of this whitelist, you're still a winner, right? So none of that is going to be changed. So that's the only change we're made to move things down. But we moved one thing and we brought 4 things up, right? So we basically added more stuff to our roadmap, and not just push things away. So let's kind of quickly run through that. So the first thing is the data coalition DAOs that we've been working on. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So the data coalition DAOs that we've been working on. So if a quick recap on what these are. So data coalition DAOs are basically a way for you, if you want to trade your data, instead of trading it one-on-one, you can align to a DAO that looks after your best interest. So Itheum's been trialing out and designing these DAOs. We've actually launched the Gamer Passport Data Coalition DAO. It's been actually in the industry right now, and there's 100 gamers in there and gaming guilds who are looking at the voting scheme and kind of deciding how we could value a gamer's data and how we can unlock this data. We're currently in the midst of launching a second data coalition trial DAO, which is a health passport data coalition DAO, working with some really interesting enterprise clients who we will announce very soon as well. So this is a discovery phase. Like, we have to understand how to put this DAO together to make it legitimate, how to make it follow compliance and complexities around health data, gaming data, identifiable data. So, and we made great progress with this. So we have a team within Itheum just focused on this. So that's a data coalition DAOs, and this will continue until next quarter, until we mature the DAO schemes, after which we will end up building an on-chain data coalition DAO system. Now, the second part item that we've actually brought forward and introduced is a new construct or a new primitive within the Itheum ecosystem, and that's called the data marshal. And we have actually launched this in testnet already, and we will demonstrate this very soon. So data marshals, actually, I think we'll just jump straight into it. So in X Day, we announced that what's coming beyond 2023 after we launch data NFT technology, NFMe ID technology, and identity and reputation systems, what's coming ahead. And we spoke about the Itheum SDK, and we spoke about Green Room protocol, and this really interesting concept called Data Fabric. And Data Fabric is to solve this use case of decentralized encryption services. And the idea here is, if we want to protect data sets from being attacked and hacked and privacy being stolen, we need to decentralize the encryption systems that are in the world today. So Data Fabric is when Itheum launches its own node network. To be very clear, it's most likely not its own blockchain. It's a distributed system, and a distributed system that specifically focuses on providing distributed encryption and data services, right, to further secure your data when it's being used within the Itheum ecosystem. So we spoke about this, but we've already started building it. So this is coming beyond 2023, but the primitives are already being built, and that's the data marshal. Now, if we just go up here, so the data marshal is the very early stage software that would be installed in the nodes that form the fabric. So the fabric is a distributed system made up of nodes that you can run and participate with your Ethereum tokens. And each node has a software module in it, and that software is basically called Data Marshal at the moment. It provides a bunch of services. It's actually the decentralized broker. It's brokering the trade of your data. But it also in future will provide much more advanced services like data curation services and the gold standard of decentralized encryption standards. So we're going to actually show you how the Data Marshal works today. That's the first version of this node software. And today we're going to, of course, we've said that we're going to launch data NFT technology to mainnet in this quarter. So that's basically by the end of this month. We are on track to doing this. All the smart contracts are built. We're past 3 rounds of community testing. So we're currently in security audit, and the two contracts that make up the data NFT technology and the data NFT marketplace comes out of security audit in a week and a half. And if we do not have any critical or major issues, then we are on track to launch this. If we do have critical and major issues, then we would have to potentially maybe delay it by a few weeks until we address this. Security is the most important thing after all, but we'll be very transparent if that happens. The next item we're going to talk about is soulbound badges. Now, this is a new product that we've introduced, and we've brought this into our roadmap, and we've started working on it. In fact, we've come out of the detailed design and prototyping stage, and we are in the development stage right now. Hope to have the first version of this in testnet, in DevNet very soon for people to test, and I'll explain exactly what they are in a moment. Next, the Itheum SDK. So as I was saying again, we were always going to launch an SDK, and we've already started building the first version of it. And this allows for third parties to programmatically interact with our data NFT technology. So this is also a work in progress. And we are redesigning our entire data decks, making it more attractive, making it aligned more to the direction we want to go. So this is, we won't be talking about this today. This is going to be something that you will see rolled out in all our softwares. So you'll see the branding change. It'll be really exciting when it actually gets launched. So let's quickly now dive into a little bit more of the data marshal, and then we'll jump into soulbound tokens, and then we'll go on to the other parts of our agenda. So we're going to talk about data marshal and Itheum v2. So as I was, saying in the introduction, the Itheum fabric provides effectively complementary services to make the Itheum data protocol more secure and more privacy preserving, and really form the foundation of the data metaverse, right? That's what we always say. Itheum will be the data protocol for the open metaverse, where you can build data related products, data sharing products, identity, reputation, all of these systems. So for this to happen, we have to actually think about what's the next iteration of Itheum. And that is where we run our own distributor system to provide, as we were saying, some services like privacy preserving compute, decentralized encryption services, and so on. So these distributed systems are basically, we're probably familiar with it. Blockchains are a type of distribution system, but what they basically mean is anybody can spin up a node and run it, bond your Ethereum tokens, and you provide these services to the network, and you earn rewards in Ethereum tokens for providing these services. Just like how a validator node in Multiverse X earns rewards for providing as the security of the network. So this is a very complex change to Ethereum that's coming up, and like I said, this would happen beyond 2023. But we have to start thinking about the primitives now, and the data marshal is the first such primitive. And the role the data marshals are playing right now is it is able to provide the decentralized access control needed for your data NFTs. In other words, if I place my data NFT for trade, and if somebody buys that from me, the data marshal brokers the access control of the encryption to ensure that only the person who owns the data NFT can view the data. And we'll demonstrate this very shortly. So that's the data marshal. It's pretty exciting stuff, and I hope you guys find that fascinating, because it really pumps up the depth of the Ethereum protocol, and it extends it from a utility point of view. So that's it's quite exciting and something that we all love to kind of focus on. So let's jump into soulbound badges now. Many of you who are from, I guess, who use like Ethereum and Polygon ecosystems are familiar with the POAPs, proof of attendance protocol, and these such sort of tokenization mechanisms that give you reputation. So POAP is like effectively a reputation token. If you attend a seminar or an event, and you can earn a POAP for this, and this is quite really powerful, because what it does is it brings reputation to our wallets, right? Because our wallets are pseudonymous. and 80% of wallets are said to be by bots. We need to be able to differentiate humans and bots. So reputation sitting on wallets is the best way we can do this without doxing an individual, right? Because we also don't want the individual to come and provide full KYC just to use a service. We want them to prove they have reputation without like completely doxing themselves. So that's what protocols like POAP do. Now in Multiverse X, at the moment there's a gap where there is no way to bring reputation to wallets, and this is our solution with the with soulbound badges. And soulbound badges, we've completed the design for it, and we're working on the smart contract right now. Effectively, bring this reputation to wallets. Now, one thing to note is that they are irrevocable reputation. In other words, once somebody gives you a soulbound badge, they can't take it back. So these are really good for things like proof of attendance or on-chain achievements that you might be familiar with. Now, soulbound badges are the first part, effectively the first part of NFMe ID's launch. Because once we do soulbound badges, as I was saying, irrevocable reputation, we are going to be building credential claims, which are revocable reputation. So these are things like your university degrees or your driver's licenses, and it provides the infrastructure for these things to come on chain. Because these things, these claims effectively should be revocable. As an example, if you get your driver's license on chain, you probably need to redo your test in about a year's time or maybe 5 years' time to renew it. So these are revocable, right? And that's the second part of our NFMe ID solution, overall NFMe ID solution. Once we launch both of these things, what we call the identity subsystem comes into play. So this now has the ability to run credentialing as a service within the Itheum protocol and within the Multiverse X blockchain. So once we do both of these and we launch our soulbound NFMe ID, we have a complete identity and reputation system that's running on mainnet. So just wanted to give you a bit of an explanation as to why we're building soulbound badges and what it's going to allow you to do within the Multiverse X ecosystem. All right, so now we've covered these roadmap-related changes. Now we're going to just jump into the tech, attempt some demos, and see data NFTs in real use cases, right? Okay, let me quickly do a check to ensure that the tech is all working. It's looking good. All right, so let's quickly do a recap on what data NFTs are. Now, in Paris, the next day, we announced that Itheum had launched the data NFT technology on DevNet. And we specifically spoke about how we have launched this technology called Data NFT FT. Now, FT stands for Fully Transferable License. And what these are is you can take your data, and it can be anything, right? It could be an Excel spreadsheet of some really good algorithm that they've written. It could be art, it could be music, it could be anything that you feel has value and you are the original creator of. And you can wrap that behind the data NFT FT, which then forms the licensing layer for anybody to use your data. Why is this important? Well, because for you to be able to know who's using your data and for you to benefit if somebody uses your data, you need this sort of ability to provide licensing for use of your data. So if as an example, you are a data scientist or you are an AI model builder and you write a really good model or you generate a really valuable training data, you should be able to attach a data license to it and earn from it if people are going to use it. Now, it's not just purely about earning. That's great as well because you put an effort and created some work that you can then unlock as an NFT and then earn royalties on retrade. But the real powerful thing here is the moment you do this, you are able to trace the provenance and the lineage of the data. Now, let's just think about that for a moment. If in the AI industry, there's absolutely no provenance or lineage traced at the moment. We do not know where the model comes from. We do not know what the training data is, how it originated. who used it, who interacted with it, does the model have biases? Everything is a black box. So something like data NFT technology attached to the training data and the model brings this level of transparency that's unheard of. And this is just the AI industry. This is applicable in any industry. We have an example here of how you can use data NFTs for machine to machine or human to machine interaction and exchange of data. So you could have a Tesla car, and the Tesla's data stream, as an example, could be minted as a data NFT. The Tesla car could then theoretically trade this data with any other EV on road or any other charging station, and it could do this all autonomously. This is because our entire technology is on chain, so it's smart contracts, and the car doesn't have to use an Etheum app. It can literally talk to the contracts, talk to the Multiverse X blockchain, and coordinate this really complex data sharing. So this is data NFT FT in essence, and this is the problem we're trying to solve. How do we attach provenance and lineage to data? And how can we allow a human or even a machine to earn by trading its data? So with that in mind, let's kind of deep dive into a specific use case, and we'll talk about AI, right? So as you would have noticed in many of the tweets we've been making, we really at Itheum, we love what's happening with AI. AI is really exploded now. Everyone's using ChatGPT and all these sort of tools. But what most people don't realize is that AI didn't just appear overnight. This technology sets have been trained with data for years now. Probably a decade. Someone's been training these models with data collected from somewhere. Now, if you look at it that way, there's like a huge transparency problem because you don't know how these models have been trained. You don't know if these models have any biases. You don't know how they're being retrained. You don't know if it's being trained with your data. Probably is. Most of them are probably data sets acquired from large from probably data brokers and etc. And your data is probably used to train these models. So we feel like AI is really powerful, but it's kind of that there's no transparency in AI. And now we're not saying that you need to completely make AI transparent because that'll probably slow the growth of AI. But what we need to do is have some form of transparency, some level of transparency. And that is where we feel like Etheum's data NFT tech would be really useful. Now, these are like the ethical questions of AI, right? Like, is the AI bias? What's the security of the model? Is there deception? Could it be could it malice? Could it be unregulated? Are there other sort of issues? Now, all of these issues, if you look at it, come when you don't know what's behind the scenes, right? If I give you a black box and I tell you, hey, trust me, everything within this black box is good, you're not going to trust me, right? Like, and in Web3 and crypto, we're all used to that, right? We are not going to trust anybody. We don't trust, we verify. So this is what I think we really feel like is the value. Now, I'm going to do something pretty risky and insane. Is we're going to actually run an AI experiment here, and please bear with me. This might not work, so I just want to put it out there. But we're going to actually try to do that and kind of try to fit into the picture where Etheum kind of fits in. So this is an example of an AI model that's being trained. So what it is that it takes, it's been trained with tweets about people mentioning airlines, right? In other words, these are people who have traveled in certain airlines and they're tweeting about their experience with the airline. So we have collected a data set. We are actually using an open source model. I'll just want to give credit to the person who wrote it originally, but we have forked the model and we've kind of made some updates to it. So we've taken the tweet data, and what we're doing here is we're basically reading the data set. You'll notice these are the tweets as an example sample set, and we are then kind of seeing how they relate to different airlines, whether they're neutral, positive, or negative, and we're effectively cleaning the data here to get it ready for training. And then what we do is we generate, how AI generally works is that you generate a training data set and a testing data set. And that's what we're doing that here. We're tokenizing the data sets here. And we are at this step here, we're going to start training the model, right? Now we train it with our sample data set. And what we could do is, after you train a model, you can use it to predict things, right? So you train it on historical data, and then I can write a statement like this, which is not a tweet, but something that uh, is just a general statement, or it could be a new tweet that hasn't been trained on. And if you run it, it would tell you at this point. Uh, oh, I think we probably have to rerun the model again. So hopefully this won't take too long. So let's rerun that. In the meantime, I'll quickly cover how what's happening behind the scenes, right? So uh, as I was saying, you need data to train the model. You need to prepare the data, and then you got to write the model to retrain it. And then you repeat this cycle. So what we are hoping to do is bring some transparency on that. So let's see if this has run again. And if I run that, we definitely have to run the whole thing again. So let's run in the whole thing again. So what it's doing now is it's actually going through step by step and running the entire workflow. And we should be at a stage of training, I believe. Let's pull it down here. Okay, and you notice here is where we're sitting at here. It's actually using the data and it's training the model to make predictions in the future. So we'll let that run and we'll come back to it. Now, what we're gonna also look at is how Itheum fits into this, right? So as I was saying, we have no understanding of where the data originated from. So in this case, where did this data set come from? And where did the model be stored? So this is where Itheum comes into place, right? So what we could do is use Itheum data NFT technology to provide the provenance and lineage to the data set. So you have a transparency as to where the data set came from and who used it and so on. So let's look at that. So here we are in the new Itheum data DEX, and we're going to demonstrate how we're going to mint a data NFT. So I go up to the trade screen. I say, let's mint a hosted file, which is our training data. So I'm going to copy that link here. So this is our hosted file that I'm hosting in AWS. So I paste it up here. And this is basically me taking the training data and I upgraded it to be more accurate. And I'll show you that in a moment once this model completes running. I think it has completed running. So let's just run this one more time and see if that works. And yeah, you see that works. So I can now predict any phrase. So I can say this flight was kind of bad. And you can see it tells you whether it's positive or negative, right? So it's effectively a sentiment analysis model. So if I click on here, it says negative. Now we notice that the original data set that I took in, this is a way you actually can quantify the quality of the training. So you can notice here that the numbers are very close, and we don't have to go into the specifics, but this is a way basically to measure the performance. So I took the actual data, improved it, and now I'm going to mint the improved data set as a data NFT, right? So you got to put the location of the data, you got to put a preview. So we'll do that here. And here's where using the data marshal. Remember, I was telling you the data marshal brokers the trade of the data. So that's where we put the data marshal. We are going to put a token name here. So we're going to go upgrade of the tweet data. So we say tweet training data. That as a title, and then we can say, hey, this is the data that I used for my example here. So I'm saying, hey, this is the data I used to train the model here. Okay, so we've done that. Now, what's cool about data NFTs is that it lets you mint multiple copies, and I can attach a royalty in case somebody buys it. I want to earn some royalties. I could do that here as well. So very quickly, I'm going to accept the terms of use. And now I'm minting my data NFT training set, my AI training set as a data NFT. So we'll see that happen now. Take a sip of water in the meantime. You notice that it's minted. It actually generated a generative image for the data NFTs. This is so that it makes it attractive as a data set. We wanted to kind of gamify it, make it look like a real NFT. And this is actually a unique image that's generated based on the signature of the data. So I'm minting the data NFT here. And momentarily it should complete. Awesome. So we've got the data NFT minted. Jump into my wallet, and we should see it at the bottom here. So the tweet training data set. So what I can do now is I can list it on the marketplace, so anybody can buy this from me. So what I could say is, listen, I'm going to list one of my data NFTs. I've got 100, but I'm going to list one. Actually, maybe what I'm going to do first is I realize maybe I minted too many of this, and I want to reduce the supply and make it more attractive for somebody. By reducing the supply, I increase the demand. So maybe what I'm going to do here is I'm going to burn 50 of it, which we will do now. Okay, so we notice we have dropped the supply now, and I'm going to list one of this for 100 Ethereum on the marketplace. So let me list that here. And what's happening now is I'm moving my data NFT from my wallet, and I'm listing it in the public marketplace. So anybody around the world can now come and procure my data NFT. So that's up here. Now, what I'm going to do is jump into the marketplace, and you'll notice we already have some sample data here. If I jump to the last page, you'll see that it's listed here. I am the creator, so obviously I can't buy my own data NFT. So let's just jump to another wallet. So this is another user, and you'll notice this user can actually go up here, go to the data NFT that was recently listed, and I'm going to procure it and agree to the terms of use, and I procure it. This is using web wallet, so I'll have to sign the transaction with the web wallet. Awesome. So now we have user number 2 that's procured the data NFT, and it's accepting the offer. If they go to their wallet, they can see the training data here. You can actually preview the data, which it actually just downloaded the sample preview, and I can view the data as well, which goes through the data marshal. But what's happened here is, okay, so I procured it, and then the creator earned it by trading the data. But I want to show you a really interesting royalties use case. So let's say user number 2 is not going to use this data set to train his model. He's just going to flip it. So he could literally go and say, actually, I'm going to list it for 1,000 NFT, 1,000 Ethereum tokens. So he's going up here again. Let's list it back on the marketplace for 1,000. So that should come back up into the marketplace page. So this should jump from my wallet now back into the marketplace, right? So if I go back to the marketplace, you'll notice that the same data NFT has been listed for 1,000 now, with some tax involved. Now it gets really cool, because now you can get the third user who comes in here. So this is a third user, and if he goes to the market and he buys the data set, because the third user in this example is somebody who wants to retrain that model that I showed you initially. So here he goes up here, sees the price, and he procures it because he really believes the value of this data set. So let's say he procures it. All right, so awesome. So now you notice this is now in his wallet. He can actually view the data set via the data marshal. So the data marshal here is verifying ownership of the NFT before unlocking the data. So what I'm doing here is I've unlocked the data, and you'll notice that the data marshal now streams the data set out to you. And I've got this. So now I've actually got the new training data to improve the original model. So the first thing we'll jump back here is we'll go back to the data creator. And if I jump to the homepage, notice that I actually earned royalties through the secondary sale. So the second person who bought it resold it for 10x more in value, like 1,000 Ethereum tokens, and I earned my 5% royalty from it. So I can immediately just go claim that into my wallet. And Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? Like it's basically showing you how data could be traded just like regular NFTs. Now let's come back to the utility of it. So remember, the third users wants to retrain the model. So in that same example here, the third user uploaded. So I've already run the notebook. I've uploaded the new training data, which now for the first time as a model builder, I know exactly where I sourced it from. I can track its provenance. I can track its lineage. There's a lot more transparency now. So I've basically taken the same uh, training system, but I've added new data and cleaned it a lot more. And notice what's happened is that I've been able to improve the actual original model considerably. So you'll notice figures like the variance between these two are quite large, which basically is one characteristic of noting down how well you've trained the model. So this is was a pretty complex demo to set up. So I hope you guys liked it. I know there was a little really complex topics we covered here, but I've tried my best to simplify it. The idea ultimately is that we are able to demonstrate the overlap between data NFT technology, specifically Web3 technology, and AI, and how it brings transparency to AI. All right, awesome. So I think I've covered quite a lot there. I do not want to keep going on and on. I do respect your time, but I really wanted to cover the actual tech. I'd love to do live demos. It's always risky, but as you could see, it all works. And what we have built is effectively the whole data assets to data NFTs in our entire ecosystem. And what we move on from here is building the identity protocol, and effectively the Ethereum protocol then in its entirety is on mainnet. The other thing to note here is that how everything is modular, right? So you can launch data NFTs, you can use it for actual use cases, and then you can launch the NFMe ID, use it for other specific use cases, and basically put it together to form this sort of modular framework that once deployed is ultimately the data protocol for the open metaverse. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I'm going to now stop sharing my screen. Thank you very much. I'll just leave you with a few closing thoughts. Firstly, as I was saying, data NFT technology is built. It's passed multiple rounds of community testing. So what's happening next? So security audits are nearing completion. It should be done in about a week and a half. If we do not have any critical issues, we should be on track to launching. We really would love for you guys to get involved in the launch process. So we are planning a Battle of Eels type event where we're going to open up our DevNet to anybody to come and mint your data assets, buy, trade, do all these things. And there's going to be some really cool rewards that we're going to put up against it. And the idea is we want to really stress test it and make sure that the technology can scale. And finally, just some closing thoughts. Yesterday was a big day. We had X Portal launched, and I think we all have been waiting for it. The app looks really good, so we have been trying it out. We can really see the direction that the Multiverse X team is taking, effectively making the super app, which is the portal into the multiverse or the metaverse. And this is great, right? Because this is something that really aligns with Etheum's vision as well. So there cannot be an open metaverse, there cannot be an open multiverse without an open data protocol, without an open identity protocol, without reputation. And these are all the building blocks that we are working on now. This is applicable not just in Multiverse X, but this is applicable in any blockchain out there. When you have a fully decentralized system and you have fully pseudonymous identities, we're always going to see hacks. We're always going to see bots taking over legitimate use case. We're always going to see decentralized applications like DeFi applications just having the same view for everybody. No matter who logs in, you're seeing the same tools because they cannot personalize anything, right, in Web3. So this is the domain that Ethereum wants to solve. We want to bring personal data and identity into Web3, right? Once we do that, we'll start kind of seeing this shift. Web3 will no longer be like this, specific thing. It's just going to be like the internet. It's going to be super personalized. Everyone's going to want to use it. Nobody will even care that it's built on blockchain. It's the next version of the internet, effectively. But that cannot happen until we bring personalization into Web3. And that's the domain Ethereum's focused on. And like I was saying, This is not specific to Multiverse X, it's on any blockchain. Ultimately, our goal should be uh, a multi chain environment, and each chain focuses on its strength. Like Multiverse X, I would say scalability, speed, low cost, and also the angle of the the metaverse. But other blockchains might do things better, like with oracles and all these things. Oracle infrastructure, better wallet infrastructure. So the idea is we build a protocol that could fit in perfectly across any sort of network. And the goal should be to solve the problem of bringing personal data into Web3, which is what we're working on. So with that, thank you for staying with me. I know this was an extra long town hall, but I really wanted to cover all of these things with you. I hate to go on and on and on talking about stuff, but and I try to be specific. So hopefully you guys liked it. If you have any questions about anything you saw here, Discord's the place to go. So get into Discord and just ask us anything, right? We love to get community feedback and improve our products. So ask us anything, and we will be there to answer you guys. So with that, wherever you are in the world, I wish you a great day or a great night, and the best of luck in everything you do. So thank you for joining me today, and until I see you again, take it easy. Bye.